Hey, how's it going, folks? Today I want to talk about why streaming on Twitch is so hard. It's so easy to push, record or start streaming on OBS or whatever the case may be, but damn, like streaming on Twitch can be hard, and it's not hard for the reasons that you think it is. I've been streaming for about 9 months now. I started in October of last year, middle of October, and I played things like Fallout, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Retro Rewind, Morrowind, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, like all kinds of odds and ends, and some of my favorite games of all time. I streamed Star Fox 64 a week or two ago. Um, but it takes some time for the audience to find you, for one thing. So, and like I just named all those games, and you're probably thinking like, wow, that's a lot of different genres, different eras, different flavors of game. I like a lot of different types of games, and for an audience to find you, not jumping around like that, it makes it hard. And I that's something I'm struggling with a lot right now and thinking a lot about. I was a professional games journalist for 10 years, okay, writing for all these different places like StarWars.com and IGN and Polygon. And I hear every month from a reader who wants to tell me about how much one of my big reported features or my book meant to them, at one point when they read it. But they don't know that I'm streaming now. They don't know that I'm doing YouTube. They may not even remember my name without, Googling it, right? Like Googling KOTOR book author or whatever, Boss Fight Books, Alex, and yeah, it takes time for people to know that you're streaming. You're in a sea of millions and millions of people who go live like on a daily basis. And you hear going into it that you'll be streaming to an audience of one or even zero in the early days. And you can know that intellectually going in, and you can know what the data says. But if you go in like, you're like, I have this audience from being a games journalist for all these years, and people care what I have to say because I had a blue check on Twitter for decade, and I wrote all these articles. Nobody's going to remember that you wrote those articles. You're on Twitch now. You have a different username, and how you brand yourself and things like that. They're not going to remember. And so you might be streaming to an audience of one, two, three, four, zero, so what that means is that money is a long ways off probably for you. If you're streaming on Twitch and you're in the early days, like I said, 9 months for me, but maybe you're thinking about going live for the first time. Maybe you're mulling over sort of a pivot to video, like my pivot to video recently. I'll be honest with you. In I became an affiliate in December, so I've been streaming for 9 months, and I've been streaming as an affiliate for 6 or 7 months, something like that. I've made about $50. Okay, something like that, something like $50 in like 7 months. Um, and boy, that's hard to say out loud, and I feel really vulnerable saying that because it sounds so pathetic. You see these streamers and they can pay their bills, they can do it full time, and it's obvious. Not everybody is gonna see big success on Twitch right out of the gate, but yeah, just know that going into it. Why is it hard? It's really easy to just go live and play a game and talk and hang out. I think everybody kind of casually does that. We socially do that now. It's I think people who game do. They stream to their Discord buddies or whatever the case may be. But to do it at a professional level and be entertaining and be sort of on and energized and ready to go consistently, on a set schedule at the set time that you tell people you're going to go live. Boy, is that hard to do all the time. Like I've got two kids, and so like if they're having a particularly difficult day, or they've got a lot of energy at the end of the day, and they're watching Jurassic Park in the living room and they're screaming at the TV, it's going to be hard for me to like just hit go live, right? And I don't want to have like screaming kids in the background or something like that. So there's like all these factors that it can be hard to get really comfortable. Like it's one thing to go live and play a game and talk. And one of the early games that I streamed was Halo 1, because I knew, like, okay, I've been playing this game for whatever 25 years of my life, most of my life, and I know it like the back of my hand, and I'm just gonna have a good time, breeze through it, and I'll be able to kind of focus on the streaming thing. And like it's it's hard to talk to nobody, and then when you do have a friend jump in the stream to support you because a couple of your friends are aware that you're streaming, like it can be a little awkward because you're like, oh, he's sort of he streamed in the past and he gave up on it because this phase was hard, this part of like stream into one or zero people, two or three people. It can be hard, and now he's seeing me do it. He's seeing me try, and I'm the one is quote unquote failing the way he failed. And that is difficult. That makes it awkward. And I think that if you can push through that, that is going to be a big deciding factor in whether you can continue on or not. And I did a lot of podcasting with friends. I did a lot of like Star Wars podcasting and things like that, talking about Star Wars TV series and whatnot. When my book came out like 6 or 7 years ago, I promoted it a lot on podcasts, and like all that time just kind of talking to people and practicing my sort of speaking, because I'm not a natural talker. Okay. Not at all. And all that time on podcasts, like promoting the book and just talking to friends about Star Wars and analyzing the themes and shows like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series or Andor or The Mandalorian season 1, which was great for that, by the way. The first season of Mandalorian was really cool when it was kind of new and fresh and everything was kind of a mystery. It was a very mystery box in those early days. That's a really good way to prepare yourself for kind of the horror of streaming into the void. And you'll have days where you're streaming to nobody, and you'll have days where you're streaming to, maybe you got raided by 70 people because somebody who knows you saw you were on and they wanted to raid somebody that they knew, and they're a partnered streamer, and oh, Alex is streaming Fallout, or he's streaming Zelda or whatever. And I've been rated by huge audiences, and it's like, oh, I now have to shift into like, oh, I'm perking up because 70 people just joined my stream. Now, if you're doing things right, like you should have already been behaving the way you would always would, if whether you're streaming to one person or 70,000 or whatever, you want to just be yourself, right? You want to be conversational, entertaining, energetic as you can be, and it can be hard. It can be easier said than done. Streaming on Twitch is so easy, and it is so hard. And it's one of those things where anybody can do it. There's no gatekeeping. You essentially, if you have a console, you like literally just hit go live. If you are on PC like I am now, you just get OBS is like a free open source software that it sounds complicated to use, but it's not. I promise you, if I can do it, like anybody can. Really, I will say, after 9 months of streaming, choosing a game is the endless struggle. That is the hardest thing about streaming on Twitch. I announced and was very excited about playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then probably like the DLC for it, and then Rebirth. And I made a graphic for it that I posted on social media. I called it The Road to Revelation, and I was really excited to um, stream all this Final Fantasy stuff between now and next spring when Revelation Part 3 of the remake trilogy launches, and then stream that. I thought, oh, like finally I have like a sort of a plan for my Twitch and not just like throwing crap at the wall to see what sticks. It was like, oh, I now have like a mission, something really exciting to build toward and to guide my streaming endeavors. And it kind of flopped. People wandered into my stream and introduced themselves and would hang out and chat, and we'd have a really good time if I was streaming something like Five Nights at Freddy's or Morrowind or Magic the Gathering Arena. There's like lots of games that I've had a lot of, decent success streaming. Maybe Zelda Ocarina of Time or KOTOR 2, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. And I thought maybe if I was loud and excited about Final Fantasy VII Remake, it'd be a similar thing, but it just wasn't like that. It was a bit of a flop. And so that's an interesting point that you have to consider when you go into streaming. If you're new to Twitch or you're thinking about starting Twitch, just know that it's easy and it is exhausting sometimes, and it is a slow build. And a lot of the smart people, the gurus that I've looked to for wisdom and advice on YouTube, for example, over the last year or more, 2 years, especially like since I basically when I got laid off for the first time in November of 2024, I started really watching a lot of YouTube and getting into like, oh, I really enjoy this again. I enjoy video. I enjoy watching streamers on Twitch and things like that. And I'm learning from them. And they're a big source of information and entertainment and wisdom, the way that a book can be or a podcast can be. Not all information is created equal. Not all people are created equal. Okay. Not all voices necessarily should be given equal weight. Some of the people giving health advice in this current, United States government, for example, you got to take some things with a grain of salt and do your own research sometimes. But I had a great time watching YouTube, Twitch, and I got laid off for a second time 17 months later. And so it was like, wow, I'm glad that I've been streaming and dabbling with YouTube over the last few months, because it's like now I can take a serious push at this. And I have on both fronts, Twitch and YouTube. A lot of people think of them as like one and the same or a symbiotic relationship. I think that in reality, Twitch and YouTube are very different. And I want to keep doing both, and I want to put a lot of energy and effort into both. So this is me putting effort into YouTube when I'm not streaming. I streamed earlier tonight and finished Final Fantasy VII Remake. I was like, I want to do some YouTube stuff and put effort into that again. But it's fun, and there's always something new to learn. There's always something you could be doing better. That said, a lot of people really overcomplicate things too. There's a lot of like fancy graphical overlays and flashy animations. You'll see like Twitch gurus and YouTube gurus like advertising like all these overlays and transitions and all that stuff. And you don't really need it. If you look at the people who are partnered on Twitch and have a lot, like thousands of viewers when they're live concurrently, like they're probably just a square webcam in the corner of their gameplay, and that's it. And like, what's that tell you? It tells you that you don't need all that other visual clutter. Okay. So simplify, just have a good time. And if you figure out how to, make it big, let me know, because it is a slow climb. Becoming an affiliate is easier than you think. Making money as an affiliate is so hard. It's a ways off. Okay, be patient. But if what you're trying to do now is become an affiliate, and I'll probably make a video about this at some point, how I did it, but basically, like, one raid can really help. Your average viewer count can spike quite a bit if another streamer raids you. So something to keep in mind. But when you're playing the right game, you're going to attract viewers, and your average view count is going to go from 1 to 5 or whatever. So I believe it's like 3 or 5 streams. You have to have like three average viewers for the duration of the stream, and that's pretty much the what you got to do to be an affiliate. And there might be like a follower. I can't remember if there's a follower count that you have to hit too, like 50 followers or something. But Becoming affiliate is pretty easy if you're just like streaming regularly and streaming stuff that is discoverable. But streaming on Twitch is very hard if you don't know exactly what game you're going to stream when you go into it. And often the game that you're excited to stream is just not going to have an audience for you with that game. Like they don't want to see you play Destiny 2 because they've already got a million streamers that they watch play Destiny 2, and they don't want to watch you play some game that nobody is watching either. So like you got to find that happy medium. You have to carve out space for yourself somewhere. And that for me is kind of where I'm at right now. I'm like, I've done kind of everything right up until this point. I'm just like looking for the right game for me at the right time in my sort of young career as a video noob, a Twitch noob, YouTube noob. 9 months in, what is the game that is going to find me the size of audience that I want? What's going to give me like 100 average viewers a stream versus, you know, four or whatever. So yeah, it's going to be fun finding what game that is. But I'm all ears if you have suggestions. It's tough. It's tough to find the right game for you that is going to have you feeling comfortable and in your element, and like you can have a long stream, have a good time, entertain people, converse with chat, be kind of like interactive with the audience, and also like not making a fool of yourself, like getting whooped in the game. And is there a multiplayer game you're really good at, but is there an audience for that on Twitch? Like it's so hard. It's the endless struggle. And yeah, if you solve that equation, let me know. There's a lot of advice videos out there. There's a lot of data that's in the open, floating out in the ether, and there's no end of information about, what games are being watched, when, by whom. But when you choose to stream those games, you just don't know what's going to happen. So you try things. There's a lot of trial and error, and that's why I think Twitch is pretty hard. When you don't have an audience established yet, that's really the uphill climb, is finding your, what's going to be the thing, like Jinxie and Rainbow Six Siege, right? Like those famous streamers who hit it big by playing one game, Astacross with Destiny 2, or various like Mario Maker streamers that I followed for forever, play other games now, but they started as Mario Maker streamer, or they streamed like Pokemon card stuff, so you got to find that game that is for you. Good luck, everybody.